Outpost Zephyr 7 had the distinction of being the most boring assignment in the Outer Rim, which was exactly why Sergeant Alex Chen had requested the transfer. After 3 tours in active combat zones, the idea of spending 6 months inspecting security systems and filing reports sounded like paradise. Morgan, remind me again why I'm crawling through maintenance tunnels at Dark 30 instead of sleeping like a civilized human being. The station's AI responded in its perpetually cheerful voice. Monthly security sweep, Sergeant Chen. Regulations require physical inspection of all containment systems. You're currently 17 minutes behind schedule. 17 minutes behind schedule for checking locks on empty storage rooms. My life has reached new heights of excitement. Alex squeezed through a particularly narrow access hatch, his standard-issue scanner beeping irritably as it detected various mechanical systems. At least the pay is decent. The lower levels of Zephyr 7 were a maze of corridors that hadn't seen regular foot traffic in decades. Whatever research had been conducted here before its conversion to a supply depot, the previous occupants had built everything to last. Alex's flashlight beam played across walls made of some kind of composite material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Morgan, what exactly was this place before it became a glorified warehouse? Imperial Research Facility Designation 7742, established in 2387. Records regarding specific research projects are classified above your clearance level. Of course they are, because nothing says perfectly normal storage facility like classified research projects and walls made of whatever this stuff is. Alex tapped the wall with his scanner, producing a dull thud that suggested the material was considerably thicker than standard construction. How much further to the next checkpoint? 47 meters, bearing left at the next intersection. You'll find Security Station Delta 9 at the end of the corridor. Alex rounded the corner and stopped dead in his tracks. The corridor ahead wasn't anything like the maintenance areas he'd been crawling through. This looked more like a maximum security prison, complete with reinforced bulkheads and what appeared to be some kind of energy field generators built into the walls. Morgan, I think I took a wrong turn. This doesn't look like a storage area. You are proceeding along the designated inspection route, Sergeant Chen. Security Station Delta 9 requires monthly verification that all containment protocols remain active. Containment protocols. Alex approached what was unmistakably a security checkpoint, complete with biometric scanners and what looked like enough armor plating to stop a tank shell. What exactly are we containing down here? Imperial Research Facility 7742 was used for the study and containment of potentially hazardous xenobiological specimens. All subjects were terminated or relocated upon facility decommission. Alex's scanner was going crazy now, detecting energy readings that made no sense for a supposedly deactivated storage area. The corridor beyond the checkpoint disappeared into darkness, but his flashlight revealed what looked like a series of heavy doors built into the walls. Define potentially hazardous, Morgan. I'm sorry, that information is classified above your clearance level. Right, because that's not ominous at all. Alex approached the first door, noting the warning labels plastered across its surface in at least a dozen different languages. Most of them seemed to translate roughly to variations on "Do not open," with varying degrees of emphatic punctuation. Morgan, these containment cells are supposed to be empty, right? According to official records, all containment chambers in Section Delta were cleared for standard storage use. Alex noticed the careful phrasing. According to official records, what about according to actual reality? I am not authorized to contradict official documentation. That's either the most honest thing an AI has ever said to me, or the most terrifying. Alex held up his scanner to get readings on the door's locking mechanisms. The device immediately began displaying what he could only describe as technological hieroglyphics. "Morgan, my scanner is having some kind of breakdown. It's showing energy readings that would require a fusion reactor to generate." Standard security scanners are not calibrated for Imperial-era containment systems. Physical inspection protocols recommend manual verification of lock status. Alex stared at the scanner's display, which now showed a three-dimensional representation of what looked like the most complex locking mechanism ever devised. Multiple layers of security, all apparently active despite the facility's official decommission. Manual verification. Right, so I'm supposed to stick my hand into this thing and see if it bites me. Standard procedure requires interface with the containment system's diagnostic port using authorized equipment. And my scanner counts as authorized equipment. Your scanner is equipped with universal interface capabilities. Alex looked at the scanner, then at the containment door, then back at the scanner. 3 years of military service had taught him that when regulations contradicted common sense, it was usually best to trust common sense. On the other hand, 6 months of routine inspections had made him curious about anything that broke the monotony. What's the worst that could happen? He plugged the scanner into what looked like a diagnostic port built into the door's control panel. The scanner's display immediately exploded into a cascade of warnings, error messages, and what appeared to be some kind of countdown sequence. "Morgan, my scanner just went completely insane. What exactly is it interfacing with?" "Containment System Delta 9 Alpha, Imperial Classification, Absolute Maximum Security. Warning, unauthorized access detected. Initiating emergency protocols." The corridor filled with the sound of alarms. Emergency lighting bathed everything in red, and Alex's scanner displayed a message that made his blood run cold. "Containment breach imminent. Evacuation recommended." Through the reinforced viewing port in the containment door, something moved in the darkness beyond. "Morgan, please tell me that's a malfunction." "I'm sorry, Sergeant Chen. I cannot confirm malfunction status. Recommend immediate evacuation of Section Delta." Alex stared at the viewing port as whatever was inside the containment chamber began to stir. After 17 minutes behind schedule, he was about to discover why some inspection protocols existed for very good reasons. The scanner in his hand displayed a final message. "Release sequence initiated. Estimated time to completion, 60 seconds. "Well," Alex said to himself, "at least work isn't boring anymore." The containment door opened with a sound like the universe cracking in half, followed by a hiss of equalizing atmosphere that smelled of ozone and something Alex couldn't identify, but instinctively didn't like. Emergency lights cast everything in hellish red shadows as a figure emerged from the darkness beyond. She was tall, easily 6.5 feet, and moved with the fluid grace of something that had never doubted its place at the top of the food chain. Her skin had a pale, almost luminescent quality that seemed to absorb and reflect the emergency lighting simultaneously. But it was her ears that marked her as definitely not human. Elongated and pointed, they swept back from her skull with an elegance that somehow managed to be both alien and beautiful. Alex's hand moved instinctively toward his sidearm, then stopped as golden eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made his combat training feel woefully inadequate. "You," she said in accented standard that sounded like music being played on instruments made of starlight, "are not what I expected." "Yeah, well, you're exactly what I expected from a maximum security containment cell marked, 'Do not open,' in 17 languages. Alex kept his hand away from his weapon, partly from wisdom and partly because something told him it wouldn't make much difference. "I'm guessing you're not supposed to be awake." She tilted her head, studying him with the kind of focus usually reserved for particularly interesting specimens. "Awake? I have been aware for every moment of the past 347 years, 215 days, 18 hours and—" She paused, those golden eyes flickering. 32 minutes. That's remarkably precise for someone who's been in suspended animation. I was not in suspended animation. I was imprisoned. She stepped fully into the corridor, and Alex noticed that despite her obvious alien heritage, she was wearing what looked like the remnants of an imperial military uniform. The question that interests me is whether you freed me intentionally or by accident. Oh, definitely by accident. If I'd known there was a legendary warrior queen locked up down here, I would have called in sick today. Something that might have been amusement flickered across her features. Legendary warrior queen. Is that what the stories call me now? The stories call you the Void Empress, architect of the Nexari Wars, destroyer of 6 star systems, and generally the kind of person parents tell their children about to make them behave. Alex gestured toward his still screaming scanner. Though apparently the stories also said you were dead, so their accuracy seems questionable. Zara Vexthara, she said, inclining her head in what might have been a formal introduction. And the stories, as stories often are both true and complete fabrications. Sergeant Alex Chen, accidental liberator of galactic menaces and professional follower of regulations that apparently need better warning labels. The alarms were getting louder, and Alex could hear the distinctive whine of security systems powering up. So, Zara Vexthara, formerly dead Void Empress, what exactly are your immediate plans? Because Morgan is about to flood this section with security drones, and I'm not sure my insurance covers death by accidentally released ancient evil. Zara's laugh was like silver bells being struck by lightning. Ancient evil. I am barely 400 years old. That is hardly ancient by Nexari standards. 400 years old. Right. Well, that explains why you look so good for your age. Alex winced as blast doors began sealing throughout the facility. But seriously, we need to move. Morgan, what's our situation? The AI's voice came through speakers that crackled with static. Security breach in Section Delta. All personnel must evacuate immediately. Automated containment protocols will engage in T-3 minutes. Automated containment protocols. Zara's expression shifted to something considerably more dangerous. How delightfully predictable. They still believe that their little toys can contain me. She raised one elegant hand, and Alex's scanner, along with every other electronic device in the corridor, went completely dead. The emergency lighting flickered and died, plunging them into absolute darkness. Okay, that's either really impressive or really terrifying, possibly both. Light returned, but not from the facility's systems. Zara's skin was glowing with a soft, phosphorescent radiance that provided enough illumination to see by. Her expression was thoughtful rather than hostile. You interest me, Sergeant Alex Chen. Most humans in your situation would either be shooting at me or running away screaming. You are doing neither. Yeah, well, shooting at you seems like it would end badly for me, and running away screaming would be unprofessional. Plus, you haven't actually threatened me yet, which suggests either remarkable self-control or elaborate psychological warfare. Perhaps both. Zara studied the sealed blast doors blocking their path. These containment protocols, they will attempt to eliminate both of us, won't they? That would be my guess. Morgan doesn't seem like the type to take chances with potentially dangerous xenobiological specimens. Then we have something in common. Neither of us wishes to be eliminated by automated security systems. She placed her hand on the blast door, and Alex heard metal beginning to stress and warp. Tell me, Sergeant Chen, do you know why I was imprisoned here? According to the stories, you tried to conquer the galaxy and killed billions of people in the process. According to the truth, I attempted to expose a conspiracy within the Galactic Council that involved illegal weapons trading, systematic genocide, and corruption that reached the highest levels of government. The blast door crumpled like paper under her touch. I was imprisoned not for the crimes I committed, but for the crimes I threatened to reveal. Alex followed her through the twisted remains of the door. So you're saying you're actually the good guy in this story. I am saying that the universe is rarely as simple as the stories make it seem. Zara's glow cast dancing shadows on the walls as they moved through corridors that were actively trying to kill them. Though I will admit that my methods were sometimes direct. Direct how? When diplomacy fails, sometimes one must resort to reducing corrupt officials and their facilities to component atoms. Right, well, that's definitely direct. Security drones descended from ceiling hatches, their targeting lasers painting red dots across Alex's chest. Zara sighed in what sounded like genuine irritation. Some things never change. Morgan, I presume you can hear me. The AI's voice came from speakers mounted in the drones themselves. Unknown xenobiological specimen, you are ordered to surrender immediately. I am Zara Vexthara of the Nexari hegemony, and I do not surrender to inferior technology. She gestured casually, and every drone in the corridor simply fell out of the air. Nor do I appreciate being classified as a specimen. Alex stared at the deactivated drones. Okay, that's definitely going on my report, assuming I live long enough to file one. The facility's central hub looked like a war zone, which was fitting since Alex and Zara were essentially fighting their way through a hostile computer's idea of crowd control. Laser grids crisscrossed the main corridor, emergency barriers slammed shut at random intervals, and the temperature had dropped to what Alex could only describe as aggressively uncomfortable. Morgan, I don't suppose we could discuss this like reasonable entities. Alex ducked behind a support pillar as another wave of security drones swept past, their targeting systems painting everything in red light. Negative, Sergeant Chen. You have been classified as compromised by hostile xenobiological influence. Surrender for decontamination processing. Decontamination processing sounds ominous. Zara melted through another blast door like it was made of warm butter, her luminescent skin casting an eerie glow through the superheated metal. It involves molecular disintegration. Quite thorough, though I understand the process is unpleasant. Well, that settles it. Morgan is definitely not getting a positive review in my report. Alex checked his weapons power cell, though he suspected it would be about as useful against their current problems as harsh language. Any chance you could do that impressive, technology-disrupting thing on the entire facility? The dampening field I generate has limited range, and this station's systems are more extensive than they initially appeared. Zara paused at an intersection, her pointed ears twitching as she listened to sounds Alex couldn't detect. Also, completely disabling all systems would leave us trapped here with no life support. Write note to self. Ask about potential downsides before requesting impossible favors from legendary alien warriors. They moved through sections of the facility Alex had never seen, areas that definitely hadn't been included in his orientation briefing. The architecture grew progressively more alien the deeper they went, with flowing organic curves that suggested the original designers had very different ideas about structural engineering. Alex, Zara said, and he realized it was the first time she'd used his name without his rank. May I ask you something? Sure, though given our current circumstances, I reserve the right to give answers that prioritize survival over complete honesty. Why did you free me? They reached what appeared to be a central control room, its walls lined with monitoring systems that were all flashing various combinations of red and orange. Morgan's primary processing core hummed ominously in the center of the space. Sergeant Chen, the AI's voice filled the room, step away from the xenobiological specimen. Final warning before lethal force authorization. Morgan, before you start with the lethal force, could you do me a favor? Access the classified records for Imperial Research Facility 7742. Specifically, anything related to why Zara Vexthara was imprisoned here. Those records are classified above your clearance level. Override authorization. Chen Alpha 779. Emergency disclosure protocols for situations involving imminent facility destruction. Zara raised an eyebrow. You have emergency disclosure clearance. 3 Tour in combat zones teaches you to collect useful authorization codes. Morgan, process the override. The AI's pause lasted almost 30 seconds, which in computer terms was practically an eternity. When Morgan spoke again, the voice carried a different quality. Records accessed. Imperial Research Facility 7742 was established as a containment site for Nexari political prisoner Zara Vexthara following her investigation into Council Directive 447B, codenamed Economic Stabilization Protocol. Subject was classified as extremely dangerous due to her knowledge of illegal weapons trafficking, unauthorized genocide operations, and systematic corruption within the Galactic Council's Military Affairs Division. Alex looked at Zara. So you really were trying to expose corruption. Economic Stabilization Protocol, Zara said, her voice carrying bitter memory. They made it sound so reasonable. Stabilize volatile regions through strategic resource reallocation and population management. Population management. Systematic extermination of species whose worlds contained resources the Council wanted. Billions died so that corrupt officials could profit from military contracts and colonial development rights. Morgan, Alex said slowly, what was the official justification for imprisoning Zara instead of investigating her claims? The subject was deemed mentally unstable due to paranoid delusions regarding Council operations. Imprisonment was classified as protective custody pending psychological evaluation. The psychological evaluation that was scheduled to begin when? Another long pause. No evaluation was ever scheduled. Subject was classified as indefinite containment pending further review. Alex felt something cold settle in his stomach. They never intended to let her out. The evidence I gathered would have destroyed careers, collapsed governments, and potentially triggered civil war across 17 star systems, Zara said quietly. Easier to classify me as insane and lock me away forever. The facility shuddered around them as something large exploded in the distance. Emergency, klaxons wailed as Morgan announced that hull integrity was compromised in multiple sections. Well, Alex said, checking his weapon's power reading, looks like we've got bigger problems than ancient conspiracies. Morgan, what's our best route to the docking bay? All primary corridors are sealed. Secondary routes are compromised by structural damage. Recommend shelter in place pending rescue operations. Shelter in place while the station falls apart around us? I don't think so. Alex looked at Zara. Any chance you've got a plan that doesn't involve us becoming part of the debris field? Zara's smile was sharp and predatory. I have spent 3.5 centuries planning my escape from this facility. Yes, Sergeant Chen, I have a plan. Zara's plan turned out to involve a maintenance shaft that Alex was fairly certain hadn't been designed with human anatomy in mind. Several creative applications of her apparent ability to convince technology to stop working, and what she called controlled demolition, but which Alex classified as terrifying explosions that somehow don't kill us. The docking bay was in chaos when they finally reached it. Emergency lights strobing across twisted metal and debris that had once been a perfectly functional spacecraft hangar. The only intact vessel was a small courier ship that looked like it had seen better decades. Please tell me you know how to fly that thing, Alex said, surveying the wreckage around them. Nexari children learn to pilot spacecraft before they learn to walk properly. The question is whether this particular vessel will remain functional long enough to achieve escape velocity. Alex ran a quick diagnostic on the ship systems, while Zara did something involving her hands, and a lot of soft singing that made the engines purr like contented cats. Life support is stable, navigation is functional, and the hyperdrive is. He paused, staring at the readouts. The hyperdrive is showing efficiency ratings that shouldn't be possible with this model. I may have made some improvements. In the 30 seconds since we boarded, I am very good with technology. The ship lifted off just as the final section of Outpost Zephyr 7 lost structural integrity. Through the rear viewports, Alex watched 3 centuries of secrets disappear in a spectacular cascade of fire and debris. Morgan's final transmission was interesting, Zara said as she plotted their course away from the expanding debris field. Did you hear the complete message? I was too busy not dying to pay attention to the AI's final words. What did Morgan say? Full disclosure of Council Directive 447B has been transmitted to all major news networks and government oversight committees. Evidence files successfully uploaded to 17 separate archive systems across the galaxy. Zara's smile was sharp and satisfied. Morgan decided to complete my investigation for me. Alex stared at her. You planned that. You knew Morgan would access those files if I used my override codes. I suspected that an AI programmed for facility security might have ethical subroutines that would conflict with covering up systematic genocide. Your override codes simply provided the legal framework for Morgan to act on those ethical conflicts. So this whole escape was actually an elaborate plan to expose 300-year-old corruption. This whole escape was a plan to ensure that the people responsible for billions of deaths would finally face consequences for their actions. The fact that it also involved my freedom was simply convenient. The ship's communication array crackled to life with emergency broadcasts from across the galaxy. News of the Morgan revelations was spreading faster than their hyperdrive could carry them, and the political implications were already causing chaos in capital systems. Alex, Zara said quietly, when we reach civilized space, I will surrender myself to proper authorities. But I need someone to witness my testimony, someone who can verify that I am who I claim to be and that my evidence is authentic. You want me to testify on behalf of the Void Empress. I want you to testify on behalf of the truth. The choice of what to do with that truth will belong to others. Alex considered this as star systems flashed past their viewports. 3 days ago, he'd been a simple soldier following routine procedures. Now he was apparently a key witness in what might become the largest political scandal in galactic history. You know this is going to destroy my career, right? Testifying on behalf of a supposed war criminal isn't exactly a resume enhancement. Perhaps the galaxy is ready for soldiers who prioritize truth over convenience. The ship's proximity alarms chimed as they approached the Kepler trade station, a massive commercial hub that served as neutral territory for a dozen different species and governments. Alex could see patrol ships moving to intercept them, their weapons powered but not yet targeting. This is trade station control to unknown courier ship. Identify yourself and state your business. Alex looked at Zara, who nodded encouragement. Trade Station Control, this is Sergeant Alex Chen, Terran Defense Force, requesting emergency docking and priority communication with Galactic Council representatives. I am escorting a witness who has information relevant to recent intelligence disclosures regarding Council Directive 447B. The pause from traffic control lasted almost a minute. Sergeant Chen, you are cleared for emergency Dock 7. Be advised that Galactic Council investigators are already en route to this station. As their ship settled onto the docking platform, Alex realized that his simple life of following orders and filing reports was officially over. Through the viewports, he could see news crews, investigators, and what looked like half the diplomatic corps of the galaxy waiting for them. Any regrets about freeing the most dangerous woman in the universe? Zara asked as they prepared to disembark. Alex considered this. Ask me again after we see whether the truth actually matters to anyone. And if it does matter, then maybe dangerous women are exactly what the universe needs. Zara's laugh was warm and genuine, without the sharp edge it had carried in the facility. Sergeant Alex Chen, I believe you may be more dangerous than I am. Yeah, well, turns out accidentally doing the right thing can be pretty subversive. They walked down the ship's ramp together, toward a galaxy that was about to discover that some secrets were too big to stay buried forever. Alex had started the day as a routine security inspector. He was ending it as someone who had helped rewrite the political landscape of civilized space. It wasn't the career change he'd planned, but as he watched Zara face the crowd of reporters and investigators with regal composure, Alex realized that sometimes the best decisions were the ones you made without thinking too hard about the consequences. Behind them, the evidence of 3 centuries of corruption spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Ahead of them, the most dangerous woman in the universe prepared to testify about truth, justice, and the occasionally revolutionary power of doing what's right. Alex figured those were pretty good odds